Hey, Chrissy here. I am a landscape architect and the owner of Kismet Design. I am a very process-driven designer, and I love sharing what I do and how I do it with anyone who's interested. Reaching your true potential and achieving your own personal goals will not happen by chance. You have to set your intentions, make a plan, and do the work. Thank you for joining me to nerd out on design. Don't forget to subscribe and to share too. Let's create something great together. This episode is really exciting. Sara Meier of Green Thumb Sam joins me once again on the podcast. She is the first repeat interview, and it is great. In our last conversation, we discussed how she got started in the industry and her process for design and business. For anyone who missed it, it's episode 24. It is well worth going back to listen. The episode today, we talk about goals for growth and balance of business and life. I especially love talking with her about setting rules for herself and how she structures her time for best efficiency. Part of her equation for growth is through inspiration, and she shares her experience going to the APLD conference last year, which I'm very jealous I didn't get to join her on. She shares many of her sources for inspiration as well. I tried to get as many linked up in the show notes as I could, so be sure to check those out. So this year, as I put in my email to you, I'm trying to do some focus topics each month. And part of that is because I'm working on my book, which I'm focusing my topics on the topics that are going into my book. Kind of, they'll probably get reordered, but right now all the focus topics are kind of in that order per month. So this month right now, as we're recording, the focus topic is beginnings. Next month will be focused on growth. So since the last time we talked, at least the last time we talked on the podcast, we talked about kind of how you got started and your entry and kind of how you started your business and just in the industry as a whole. So I figured it would be nice to talk about how your business has grown and kind of what your goals for processes, and also a big thing is kind of how you set goals in place to achieve the growth that you're looking for or have achieved. So to jump right into that, have you set any goals for growth currently or that you've already achieved? And what are the key actions that you've taken to achieve those goals?
Yeah, so I have set a goal to make a certain amount of money this year. Say that's $50,000. And then I have worked backwards from that number to figure out how many billable hours a week or a month that I would need to work as a target to help hit that goal of $50,000. But of course, alongside with this and all of the planning, I'm also taking into account how much time I want to take off with my family, so that I know how much I have to work during those weeks that I am working. And for me, for taking off time with my family, that looks like a week at spring break and a couple of weeks around Christmas, New Year's. And then I usually take off most of June, all of July, and some of August when the kids go back to school. So for me, as far as like meetings or consultations, that could be like 4 consultations per week, and maybe 2 drafted plans a month, and then 1 project management job per month. So if I can schedule those in, that will keep me going towards that goal that I want to achieve.
Nice. I think
Yeah.
taking that much time off sounds lovely. I should really structure my time a little bit better to do that. This year was the first time I've really taken a solid amount of time off around the kids' Christmas break, and it was absolutely fantastic. And I was like, I am doing this every year from now on because I'd never done it. And it's really nice. It feels good.
It is
You only
really
get
nice.
so much time.
Yep. This year we went to the Oregon coast, and I think I took 3 preliminary plans that I was going to work on, and I rolled them all up and took my tackle box full of stuff, and I didn't even touch them. It was wonderful.
Good for you. Good for you.
Another thing that I have done is I've said yes to teaching. Teaching absolutely terrifies me, but I decided to do some more teaching this year. So last year I taught 2 classes for the Idaho Nursery and Landscape Association for our industry horticulture expo. And in one of the classes, I had nearly 300 students in it, and I thought I was going to die. And that was a plant talk for Firewise plants, and the other one was a landscape design class. But this year I have said yes to teaching 2 classes at Boise State University through their OSHER program, and that is for retirees. So that's like my target demographic. I have discovered that that is probably my ideal client because they're really involved in the process. So it'll be 2 hours, one on landscape design and then one on Intermountain West plants. And I also just said yes to talking at the Plant Select conference in Denver this year in June. And that will be a plant talk, and I love plant talks. So that'll be great. And then in the past, what I have done to set some goals to help me achieve, meeting new clients or getting more referrals is certification. I got my Firewise certification. And so that led to a larger pool of clients that are in the foothills that then referred me to other clients in the foothills. And usually those clients have a little bit larger budget, and they're dealing with the plants that I'm really excited about. So those are some, that's a goal that I've set for myself, and those are some actions that I took
That's
to
really
achieve those.
exciting. Congratulations on all the teaching opportunities. That's really fun.
Thank you.
And so I'm assuming that your goals around your number of clients and all of that also had to be kind of orchestrated around what all of the teaching opportunities look like as well, which is easier said than done sometimes.
Right, because then you teach and then you get more people who are interested in what you are doing, and then the schedule starts filling up. So having a schedule is really important.
Do you schedule to be able to really kind of plan for that and prioritize like where you focus your time? Do you have a set schedule that you try to keep to in terms of like how many design clients? So if you get a phone call, like my first availability is X month, date away.
I do, and I don't know if you want to put a pause in here for editing later, but it gets into the rule following.
We can just jump to that.
Yeah, let's go to that.
So, I mean, we talked about it before, like both of us are crazy rule followers. And I did read the book that you recommended, drawing a blank on it, The Four Tendencies. I really liked it. As I was reading it, I was like, oh, yes. I was like shaking my head the whole time, like, yes, absolutely, totally me. And then even, kind of identifying like some of the people that I'm really close with, I was like, oh, that's definitely my husband. That's my son. Like that, you kind of go through that and you can identify people pretty easily. But I thought it was really interesting. But that was kind of one of the things that, as I was kind of putting together some ideas of what we could talk about today, is kind of some of those rules that you set in place to be able to achieve that strategic growth and to be able to meet your goals because I'm super regimented and I kind of do that. And I know that our minds work very similarly. So I thought that'd be interesting for you to kind of explain a little bit.
Yeah, so setting a schedule for me and creating rules so that I know what's going on every day of the week has been the biggest helper as far as growth goes for me. And luckily, I'm at a point where I can pick and choose the jobs that I want to work on. And I do get most of my business through referral. So yeah, we had talked about schedules, and I've tweaked mine a little since we last talked. This year, I added project management to my offerings, inspired by you. So that is fantastic.
Yay, I'm glad.
Yeah, and that's, of course, in addition to the consultation and design. And I have found out that project management takes a lot of time.
It does.
Yes.
It's
So
rewarding and fun, but very time consuming.
right. So I might not be able to take on as many consultations this year as I had last year. And the other thing that has changed is that I've got kids at 2 different schools right now. So my workday has shortened with the different pickup and drop off times and the dead zones in between. And that will usually come out through the initial consultation meeting. Like if they are requesting a time outside of the hours that I'm available, I already know that it's probably not going to work if we're going to go over preliminary plans or any further ideas together. So
If you elaborate, because I know I've talked to multiple different designers that use the term consultation differently. So some people, a consultation is like the initial consultation that's like a kickoff to the design process, or sometimes it can be more of just like a garden consult, like just someone that's paying for you to be out there on an hourly rate to just give them ideas, but not flow into design. How do you structure that, and what's the difference to you?
Right. It's a broad term, consultation. I charge an hourly rate for my consultations, and I go out to the client's house and look at the spaces. I tell them that we're going to focus on the most important space to them. So sometimes people are only looking for a front yard for curb appeal, or they've got a couple of beds in the backyard where they need some ideas of what plants to put into them. So what I will do is I'll walk around the yard with them for like 15 minutes or so, 15 minutes to half an hour, see what all their wants and needs are, see if there's any other big picture ideas like you would do when you're gathering information for a master plan. And if they just want on site drawings and notes, then I produce them right then. I draw out of the back of the car. I've got my drawing board and my scale and it's not necessarily to scale, but I've got my templates. I can make plant lists. So I can spend half an hour to an hour doing that, say if it's like a full front yard or if it's the front yard and backyard, and they will have all of a list of plant materials and hardscape materials that if they want to DIY it, they can. And if they decide after that initial meeting that lasts an hour or two, and after I give them the notes and the sketches and explain them all, if they're like, oh man, no, I think I'm going to need a little bit more detail, or I think I want to pursue a plan so that I can have a landscape contractor install it, then I'll set them up to get into the process of doing a master plan. But I've already gathered all of that information in the consultation. So then it would just be, the next meeting would be taking measurements and preparing the base map and then so on and so forth. So yes, I always get paid for my consultations, and it's a very good way to see if you want to work with someone and not have them take advantage of your time. And then I also try to stack those master plans towards the fall and winter so that when it's terrible outside, like right now we've got slushy snow on the ground at about 6 inches deep, I can be inside drawing. Um, so yeah,
Not
I try to,
outside sludging
yep,
through the snow.
you got it.
Well, and it's hard to see what all you're dealing with on a site if you can't see the ground either.
Right.
I've had to reschedule. We don't get as much snow that often here, but when it is snowy, I've had to reschedule because I'm like, I can't take measurements. I can't really see what's happening if everything's covered in snow. Do you think that as your business has grown, you've seen that transition from just consults, people that are okay with just that rough sketch on site, transition to more and more people wanting the full scale plan?
Yeah, I have. I would say it's always been about the same percentage because there's a lot of people who just want to DIY it and just
Mhm.
want to know really quickly, like, what can I plant in this bed? And those are so easy because you just draw it, make notes, tell them what they need to buy, and then walk away and you're done. But then there are other people that, they're like, wow, I really love your vision. I will bring up something that they hadn't thought about and they want to explore it further. But yeah, I would say there's a lot of people now that I'm reaching my target client who really wants to make a space, that more people are requesting plans straight off the bat when I get to their place.
I found that there's definitely projects where I kind of have a really solid idea initially of, especially for the smaller, more simple projects. But sometimes the bigger ones, I'm like, I need to sometimes sketch out multiple ideas and kind of hash things through and look at some inspiration photos before I can really like feel 100% confident in the designs that I'm giving to people. And I don't personally do a lot of just rough sketch consultations because I feel like I don't always, I don't know, maybe it's just too confining of the creativity to kind of be put on the spot. And uh I think that that sounds exciting, but very challenging.
It's challenging, but there are those clients that I will straight away say, "Oh no, your space deserves so much more thought and attention than this, and we could make it something so much greater if
Yeah.
we devote the time to it." And I'm very straightforward about saying that, and they can take it or leave it. So,
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like I would probably say that more often than not.
yeah.
I like to have the time to really hash out my ideas. One thing that you mentioned is that you rely mostly on referrals. How have you built those relationships, and how do you continue feeding that growth to not need to spend time and dollars on like traditional marketing and just really kind of fueling that referral network?
Well, I think most importantly, I've been a really good communicator, and I hope that I've delivered a great product or service that people will say, while having fun too. I think the excitement that I bring to a landscape design and plants is kind of contagious. So a lot of people, clients, will have a neighbor or a friend, and they will say, "Oh, I had Sarah out to the house, and if you don't know what to do with your yard, you should just have her over and just get some ideas of what you could do." Um, so I just get really, really excited about my job, and I'd like to think that I'm more excited than bossy, but I'm also very direct and bossy and tell people what to do. The other thing is I'm really interested in people, like genuinely. Like I love plants and I love design, but I really love people, and everyone has a story to tell. So everyone that's in the field, any other designers or horticulturists or contractors or nursery workers or teachers, and even organizations like Idaho Firewise or the Botanical Garden, anyone I run into has an origin story, right? And I always find those very interesting of how they were led to the industry. And I think that's true with everybody, right? If you think of a store that you like to frequent, you know who your guy is at your favorite rock yard, or you know who your favorite gal is at the nursery that you go to. And it's probably because you've shared a little bit of personal information or a story with them. And so that just becomes infectious. And I also like to keep up on what the local organizations are doing, like Idaho Firewise or the Botanical Garden. And even the College of Western Idaho, they have a fabulous horticulture program. So we just had our Idaho Nursery and Landscape Association Horticulture Expo, and CWI had the students there taking the classes and wandering around the trade show. And it was really interesting to talk to them and see why they were pursuing a career in horticulture or schooling in horticulture. So
Yeah.
yeah, that has really, really helped with referrals, just talking to people and getting to know them.
Do you feel like when you started your business, that was your main way that you grew your business and got clients, was just getting your name out there and just talking to people and saying, "Hey, this is what I do"?
Yeah, I was going to, classes at the local nurseries to learn all about the tips and techniques for the Treasure Valley area for Boise. And I would sit next to people and I would be doodling while we're taking a pruning class, and someone would be like, "Oh, it seems like you know something about pruning. Can you come show me how to prune my fruit trees?" And be like, "Sure." Or taking classes at the Idaho Botanical Garden and then answering questions that were or asking questions that were a little bit more high level. And they pull me aside at the end and say, "Hey, would you consider teaching here?" And so, yeah, just being present and asking the right questions got people associated with me and my name, and then thinking, "Oh, well, yeah, I know someone who could do that."
Yeah. Well, and you say doodling so casually, like it's nothing, but I'm sure your doodles look better than 90% of people's like finished drawings.
Whenever I'm listening to somebody or I'm taking a class, I have to constantly be drawing or doodling, and that's like how I retain my information. And I know that my oldest is the same way, but I haven't met very many other people. My oldest, we went to like conferences, and the teachers were like, I wasn't sure at first if they were paying attention or not. And but I assured them, oh no, they are.
Yeah. I'm the same way. I doodle a lot. I'm also just really fidgety. Like as you can see, I do all the time. I twist my hair. I play with like my rings or my pen or whatever. I just have to be like, I can't just
Moving.
sit completely still. I have to be doing something that kind of like is I don't know, a background noise in my brain, I guess.
Yep.
But yeah, I doodle a lot too, but my doodles don't look quite as beautiful
Oh.
as yours. Speaking of beautiful drawings, you are amazing on social media. That's actually how we got connected. Because I drool over your stuff all the time. Post everything. I mean, you post beautiful drawings and videos and everything on Instagram all the time. Is that part of your plan for client acquisition and business growth, or is it just something that you do just to share what you love? Like, do you get much client referrals from that?
Yeah, it wasn't part of my plan to acquire clients, but it has definitely led to business and growth. And I do get a fair amount of clients from Instagram where people would be just like, oh no, I follow you on Instagram. But I started the account because I saw that there were other people in the world who were still hand drafting. And being a solo business owner, it's kind of lonely. You don't have anyone to hang out with or talk to or see their work. And so I started sharing my work in the hopes that other people would share their work, and then ended up meeting people from all over the world. Um, and so it wasn't initially part of getting clients. But if you ever see me go quiet for a few days or a week, it's because I am getting too many inquiries and I have to keep up with them. Um, but yeah, I just really like seeing other people's work and figuring out how they answer questions and how they solve problems. And so I share mine so that I get that feedback too. And it's just been so supportive. But where this started is when I was working at the nursery, at Hayes Nursery in Issaquah, Washington. I tried to convince the owner in 2004 that we needed to get the nursery on Facebook or Twitter or something. And she was so against it. She just wanted to stick with mailers, that people would go get from their mailbox. And I went out on a limb behind her back and I created a Facebook profile and a Twitter profile for the nursery. And I started just posting a plant pick of the day. So I do one plant, and I do a close up of the plant, but then I would also show it in a display or in our gardens. And then people started showing up at the nursery saying, "Oh, I'm here to see, the plant pick of the day. Show me where the plant of the day is." And so she found out, and she was a little mad. But then when she started seeing sales from that, I explained that people didn't have to go out looking for our product. It just showed up in their hands, which was such a revolutionary idea. They could be at work daydreaming about that plant that they're going to put in their garden. And on the way home, they could just stop at the nursery and pick it up instead of having to go to the mailbox and get a mailer and make a plan for the weekend to go to the nursery when it's super busy. Once those customers started showing up, and of course they were a different age group than the little old ladies from the garden club we were getting, she gave me the go ahead and the blessing to keep doing it. And I found out that was really powerful, really powerful.
Well, and it's nice because it's an avenue that you can kind of nerd out on and have fun with, and it costs you nothing. If it works, great. If it doesn't work, it's still fun. And
Yeah.
it's still, especially a lot of the content that you put out there, it's, if nothing else, it's really inspirational for other designers. And it's really nice to see, like, I like to kind of filter a lot of the people that I personally follow in my personal account to just see beautiful things. Like, I don't,
Yeah.
Facebook has kind of become one of those things where it's more to keep up with old contacts, but I don't really like use that as like a form of inspiration. But Instagram still is something where I look at just to see beautiful things. Like, I don't use it personally for like engaging with people as much, where business I use it for engaging with people. But I
Yeah.
just love
Business.
to see beautiful things and gardens and design work, and whether it's an architect, an interior designer, a fellow landscape designer, it's nice to have that inspiration.
Yeah. Huge inspiration. And I love following contractors too and seeing how they execute designers' plans or their own plans and how they use materials together. Yeah. I use Instagram for inspiration all the time.
Well, and as I've said before, I find a lot of inspiration, even though I don't hand draft. Your drawings are beautiful and your designs are beautiful. Like even sometimes it's hard to look past the beauty of the finished product and see the actual design because it's so pretty. But you have really nice design style, and I love that you can see like a lot of the same character like through different projects. And you see, I love the pictures where you post the before and the after in the design, because you can really kind of see that thought process and where you're gathering information from what the house looks like to how that gets inspired into the landscape plan. It's really lovely.
That's good. That's good to know, because that's one of my goals this year is to get more after pictures, and I should be putting up more photos with the drawing that I'm doing of the existing house. So yeah, thanks for that tip.
Yeah, I love it. It's really nice. And it's something that I try to do, and it takes more time than just a random picture that I'm like, "Oh, this is fun." Like,
Yeah.
or I'm at a job site, like post a picture of progress, like going back and finding the before, the drawing and the after. It takes more time, but I think it's really nice. So you've mentioned a couple different organizations, and I'll put links in the show notes to them, but you just recently joined APLD, which is
Yeah.
really exciting. Obviously on the podcast I talk about that a lot. I'm really involved with our local Washington chapter. And you got the chance to attend the national conference, which is really exciting, but I'm super jealous because I didn't get to go. I was my daughter's birthday weekend, so I had to stick around. But tell me about what that experience was and kind of your takeaways. And for me, I just love going to conferences and finding new people to be inspired from, and go to seminars and things like that. And I feel like that helps me grow as a designer. I've seen so many beautiful pictures of some of the gardens, but tell me kind of what you thought about that experience.
Yeah, so I had never been to Arizona besides the Grand Canyon before, and I was really on the fence about going because I had taken a trip earlier in the year to meet up with a group of landscape designers in Bremerton, Washington, who I lovingly refer to as my cohort. And so I spent time away from my family and money, of course, doing that. And but then when the brochure came out and I saw who was speaking and what gardens we would be visiting, it was like a dream. I've always been very inspired by Steve Martino and Catherine with Prideaux Design. And my friend Carrie, who's here in Boise, was like, if you're on the fence, let me just knock you over it, because she said she wanted to share with me like the light in the desert and the design elements. And for me, what I took away is obviously less is more. And they use such restraint there. And of course, that's based on the amount of precipitation that they get and the heat that they get. But oh, it was just absolutely amazing. And then to meet all the designers that were at the conference, and um, a lot of people said like they felt like they already knew me because of the Instagram account. And so while that was a little overwhelming and embarrassing at times, it was also really, really nice because I had already messaged with them and knew a lot of them, like Lisa Noonemaker with Paper Garden Workshop. It was just like we had been fast friends for years. And I was a little bit worried too, I think, going into it, and a little intimidated by the APLD and thinking maybe um, feeling a little bit of imposter syndrome, and, all these people are so amazing. But it was, it was just so fun to find out. I mean, they're just like me. They're just like you. They're taking a million pictures of plants or gardens. I've never seen a gaggle of people, so many just like me, just standing there taking pictures and being able to, throw around design terms and discuss the gardens and the different points of view and how things were lined up. Um, it was it was a fantastic experience, and I encourage anybody to go. I mean, we looked at gardens for 3 days. And all the speakers were so good. So yeah, it was great.
It's a really very unique group. There's a lot of other design associations and other groups, whether it's horticulture related or design related. And I feel like APLD is a very unique group of people. It's just got a very different mentality and mindset, and everyone is just so nice and so gracious, and it's kind of like an extended kind of business bestie group. Like, you can throw something out there and ask a question. You're going to have 5 people answer your question, be willing to give you their time and their ideas and their expertise and their advice, just very generously. It's a great group.
It's so true. And they're all so fun. They're just a riot. It's
Yes.
just so many laughs. It was
Yes.
fantastic.
Plant nerdery at its best.
Yep.
Well, wonderful. So as we kind of wrap up, who is inspiring you right now, other than all the beautiful gardens that you got to see on the APLD tour?
Right. So Catherine Prideaux of Prideaux Design, that Tucson aesthetic, and the use of materials. We saw 2 or 3 of her gardens, and the natural pool colors. Really, really, really loved. Topophylla, that's Nahal Sobati and Eric of Pangea Express. I love their landscapes, and their use of technology is just mind-blowing. So they are always a huge source of inspiration, and they're so nice and generous with their time when I have questions to them. And they have the cutest little dog, Scotch. My friend Carrie with Canvas Landscape Design, she has really fun renderings, so you get to see really good use of color, and her layout of spaces is, I think, brilliant. I have met a new contractor this previous year, which was one of my goals, and his name is Manny, and his wife's name is Teresa, and they run Lucen Landscaping, and they've installed a few of my designs. And I think the thing that is most impressive to me about them and their company and their team is they have fantastic communication with everybody involved in the project, and they are so kind and so good with their employees. And they hire people straight out of the horticulture program here, and they have a lot of women on their staff, and their hardscapes are impeccable. I always love Beth Mullins with Beth Grows Green. She's just got a very distinct style. She hasn't been posting as much, but I love her stuff. I love Lisa Port with Banyan Tree, not only for her designs, but also her finished gardens. And she shares a lot of pictures of that and the processes of them being installed. Someone out of Bend, Oregon, Cody Taub, I think is his name, with Cascapes Landworks. He's really nailed like the high mountain, desert, Intermountain West garden design, and he installs it too. I love Fredrickson Landscape out of California. Ben Fredrickson, huge following on Instagram, but his dry creek beds are very inspiring, and he just finished a backyard pool that it looks like him and his kids and family are enjoying. There's a few more. Whole Gardens Northwest, Leslie Davis. I love her drawings, and she's a fantastic writer too. So descriptive. And then the designs that she draws, her and her husband have the company, and she's there through all of the installation that he installs. So it's really fun to see a project from beginning to end on their account. Abby Rupsa with Botanical Living. Her business sense is just like, whew, I could study her for days. And
I'll have to follow her.
Yeah, her landscapes are so clean, and she's out of Denver. So we deal with a lot of the same plants being at a higher elevation. Locally here, Be Wise Gardens has been very, very inspiring, and that's Gabrielle Craik and her daughter Isabel Genovese, and their drawings all the way through the execution of the plans is just Boise, and pollinators and habitat friendly, and their family is just so warm and so generous. They actually started a horticulture book club here, so we've been meeting about once a month after reading a book, and just very gracious, nice, artsy people.
Fun.
Yeah, for drawings, Paper Garden Workshop, Lisa Nunemaker. She teaches the skills. That's just like how I learned to draw. Gardens everyone talks about, Gita Winberg. Her drawings and her finished gardens are really nice, and she comes from a little bit colder zone So it's nice to see the plants that she uses. And then another one for drawings is the Ardent Gardener, Laura J. Van Zant. Her drawings and her finished gardens are amazing. She's out of Utah.
Nice. That is
So it's a huge list, but
no, a great list. I mean, there's a couple that I don't recognize, but I will be stalking them soon. But a lot of them are people that I follow on Instagram or know. And Lisa Noonemaker actually is going to be here tomorrow speaking
yeah.
at a Washington event. By the time this airs, it'll be since passed, but I'm excited to get to actually meet her in person because I've had her on the podcast and talked to her a couple times over the phone and over email, but I've never met her in person. So that's exciting.
Yeah, she's fantastic. She had me on for her garden workshop group, and we talked about mid-century design. So that was another teaching thing that I said yes to, which was a really good thing to do because I met so many wonderful people out of that too.
Wonderful. Well, before we wrap up, do you have any questions for me?
Yeah, what are some current challenges that you're facing right now? Do you have anything going on that's a big challenge for you right now?
Nothing really design wise. I've got a really nice workflow right now for the design portion of my business. My biggest challenge right now is trying to figure out how to create the best balance with my non-design things with my design things. So last year or the year before last, I was way too busy. I took on way too much and I had just like this perfect storm of like the top 5 biggest projects all landing at the same time, which was crazy. And so last year, I really intentionally dialed things back and pushed things out further, which was great. But it also gave my mind a little bit more time to wander and be like, oh, I also want to do this. And I also want to do this. And the podcast has been going on for a while. And I kind of hit and miss, like I'll go in spurts where I'm like really regimented and then I kind of go AWOL a little bit because I've got too much on my plate and then circle back to it. This year, I'm going to try and be much more regimented about it and kind of keep some better consistency and building time in because I'm writing a book.
Yeah.
Building time in for that. And then doing more teaching opportunities, both for outside of my organization and also creating classes within Kismet Design. And I've had a really great response so far on some of the just downloadable documents that I've been creating. And that's been really fun. And I've gotten amazing feedback on that. So I'm trying to build in more time to be working on that stuff. And that those things actually help bring some revenue to justify the time I'm spending on things like the podcast that do nothing but just make me feel good. So
Right.
creating that balance is really the biggest challenge and it'll be a work in progress as the year goes through and kind of go by feel, but really trying to balance that out.
And who else is inspiring you right now?
Oh my gosh, so many. I think the one that I just really nerded out on the other day was I got to talk with Kelly O'Clesson of Groundsmith Collective, and I could have talked with her for hours. And I'm really inspired by her mentality for her business. But over the past few years, I have one employee right now that works with me who's phenomenal. Colleen is a rock star. But she works remotely. She's actually in Boise, not that far from you. And I want to be able to do more design work and work with more clients, but I can't clone myself. And so I really like Kelly's business model of bringing in even just like one project at a time, having interns and students that are still in school and really kind of having more of a mentor type role with them, but giving them the runway to be able to work with clients. And it's something that I would like to explore.
Yeah,
I find that really, really exciting and just an awesome opportunity for both myself and for the students and designers. And I've done a little bit more collaborating with other local designers on some things. I just had another designer do some base plan work for me, which turned out great. And then I'm collaborating with Sarah Van Sanden again on another design, and I really enjoy working with her. She's just got a really, really, we think fairly similarly, but her approach to things is so different from mine, and it's really exciting and fun. So that's been really inspiring and really exciting. I love, you mentioned people's origin stories. I mean, that's one of the things I love most about doing these podcast interviews is I get to know kind of where people are coming from. And I've been really being a little bit more pushy, asking people about like how they run their business and things like that. Cause that's what I really get inspired by. And there's a couple different, designers that I've started following more that post a lot more about like their actual business things, which I find really engaging. Obviously, I like the pretty things as well. But then just like I just finished reading Adam Grant's latest book. I like anything Adam Grant anyways, but the book was really, really very well written and really inspiring. It's Adam Grant's new book, Hidden Potential.
Okay.
He talks about kind of how it's not all about just skill and like given, God-given expertise kind of thing. And it's really interesting kind of how you can pursue and be intentional about achieving goals and creating that vision. And I nerd out on things like that. So
Yeah, I'm gonna have to check that out. I've written it down now.
yeah, it's really, really good. So yeah. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate your time, and so good to get to chat with you again. And hopefully it won't be the last time we'll have to have you on again.
Yeah, have a great 2024.
Yes, you too. Thank you so much, Sarah.
You're welcome.
To wrap up, I want to thank you for your time. I hope the ideas discussed today have left you feeling excited and energized. As I build both my business and my life, I value the support and feedback you provide. I would love for you to reach out to me to let me know what you think, give me ideas, or just to connect. Please don't forget to subscribe and also share with a friend. Until next time, go create something wonderful.